Women Forward is a uniquely South African women-only political party founded in 2009. It has also caused controversy surrounding its view on rapists and exclusion of sex workers from its midst. Joining us now to discuss the party's vision is the party founder, Ngobese. Ms. Ngobese, good afternoon. Good to speak to you. Happy Women's Day, primarily.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to the viewers.
Interestingly, you were formed in 2009. Talk us through that journey for you.
It was actually 2008 in June. It came as a result of the 2007 events where when women were asked to choose a leader amongst themselves, that was in the ANC, the ruling party, being the majority people who vote in almost every party. The women still fought amongst themselves to choose a man. And being majority, the question arose to us and the founders, why did they not choose one of their own? There was still Nkosazana there, there was Winnie Mandela there were many other women who were actually eligible to be chosen as candidates for the ANC, but they decided to choose a man where there was so much divisiveness in the party. So the thought came that if women amongst themselves work together, they would not be divided to choose one man over the other, being the majority of people who voted. That's how it came about.
Now, Ms. Ngobese, you've apparently caused controversy around rapists, understandably, but exclusion of sex workers, rather, on your platform. Please take us through that and why.
Exclusion of?
Sex workers, I understand.
We don't exclude them. They are women. Why would we exclude them? We never excluded sex workers. Women need to survive in whatever means they want to survive. And I think the very fact that we have issues about who women sleep with, for me, I think it's a patriarchal connotation, patriarchal stance, that women are dictated to how they live their lives. It's not for us to actually say how women actually choose to live their lives. They are doing the best they can under the circumstances. It's very hard. Life for women is really hard. Earlier on in the news, there was, I think it was Julius Malema was saying, women are subjected under very, very inhumane conditions in this country, and they are the ones who look after their families. So how are we to dictate how they actually make a living to put food on the table? I find that totally, what do you call that, pretentious in a way. You want women to be the ones to get the homes running. At the same time, you want to dictate how that actually happens. They're doing the best they can. And most of them are the people who don't have any other option but to actually do sex work. So we don't have issues with that. But on the issue of the rapists, just to mention it, when they say South Africa is the rape capital of the world, it's not an understatement, it's real. And we're not talking about women, we're also talking about children. Obviously, all based in the violence that everyone is subjected to in this country, but women take the biggest brunt of that. And what we were proposing were issues around castration as a means of dealing with that. Because if you have such serious crimes committed, you also have serious measures to have serious measures to curb such incidences. But I think the government is not doing enough, putting people in jail for another 20, 30 years, no matter what that means. I think it's just crowding the jails. We have to more, what do you call that, serious means of dealing with issues of rape so that over time we start stemming that out. Whether it will be chemical or real castration, that's another matter. But the point is we have to start thinking seriously about how we can curb the issues of rape and mainly violence against women in this country. So those are the positions we have on the issue of rapists and sex workers.
Now, we understand that your membership is around 30,000, stand to be guided. Who is your membership open to? And outside
everyone.
Of the rapists, anybody
everyone. Well, if they want to stem out the rape themselves, they should join us because they'll probably be the best people to advocate for castration. What is important in this is that everyone who supports women leadership can be a member of Women Forward. It is not exclusively female. We have many males who support women leadership, and they have done a lot to mobilize even some of the men to support the cause of making sure that women are put in positions of influence where they can change how things are done in the country. We live in a patriarchal society, and women are not blind to the fact that they are also subjected to thinking that is also patriarchal. We have never had a society that does not have patriarchy as its major engine of thinking. So all of us are subjected to this. So we're making an effort to push ourselves out of that by making sure that women come in there, conscientize the society about what patriarchy has done. Even for males. I mean, most of the males that we interact with, even in Women Forward, are the males who are aware that violence is not good, even for them, such that if we're to create environments that balance out the power dynamics in communities, we are able to get a lot more done. And why we actually even have a violent society in South Africa is because for a long time, South Africa has been violent, and we've never had a time when we address the matter as an issue of urgency. We are only reactive to it. I still don't know how we can go about dealing with issues of violence in this country, but I think we know that in countries where there is no violence, women thrive. Women do better because violence pushes them into corners. It pushes them into fearful spaces. It pushes them away from fulfilling their own purposes in the world. So we cannot have half of the population that is always scared of engaging in matters that are so crucial in their lives. And women actually find themselves having to deal with not just the fear, but also gender-based violence that they experience, not only in the homes, but also in communities. So there's a lot that actually needs to happen in this country to address issues of violence, even for the males themselves, so that communities are safe. People feel that they have a space to express themselves, to express their talents, even in the way we build communities, because communities are not built along one gender. We actually have to include everyone in the community so that everyone feels like they can fulfill their mission in their own spaces.
Ms. Ngobese, you mentioned that you are not sure how to deal with the issues of high violence in South Africa. But according to your manifesto, eradication of extreme poverty and high unemployment levels, as well as the eradication of gender-based violence due to high crime levels, are part of your manifesto.
Now, I was talking about the what do you call that, the how, in as far as the government is concerned at the moment, because I think government is actually failing a lot. We saw that in about 3 weeks, the past 3 weeks, government failed dismally in dealing with the issues of violence. At that time, it was not just violence directed towards women, it was communal violence. And I think we need to be, what do you call that, very clear and be very direct in actually saying government has to do more than just announcing on the fact that they are creating safe communities. They have to do something about it. We need police that need to be retrained. I think that's my thinking, who are going to understand how to work with the communities at street level, if we can, ward level, so that we are able to deal with these things. I think when communities are empowered in their own areas, they will be able to find solutions area by area to deal with issues of violence, because there is no way we can continue the way things are happening in the country and still expect women to thrive and do the best they can under circumstances. Now, if you are talking about the contributors to probably women being dependent on men, issues of poverty, issues of marginalization, issues of being excluded in many areas of this country, I think you are very right in terms of saying if many women find themselves unemployed, they find themselves poor, they find themselves in spaces where they don't have any other means to survive, they will lean on the men who are actually providers. And you will find that some of those are not the people who will do that without imposing their will on those women, therefore perpetuating issues of gender-based violence. And therefore that I think South Africa as a whole needs to deal with some of the fundamental issues that create what we saw 3 weeks ago. In that, we'll be able to quell some of those energies that stop women from getting themselves engaged in productive means to develop themselves and their community.
Final question, Ms. Ngobese. One of the things you mentioned was your departure from the ANC and how when women were given opportunity to vote for a new leader, they did not choose to vote for a woman. Now, your membership sits at 30,000. You represent women issues. Surely, we would expect that there would be a higher number of membership for you. What have been some of the challenges in drawing membership from women across the country?
I did mention fear more than once. Many women are very fearful of moving out of what is seen as a norm. And we have experienced that from community to community as we go and engage. I don't want to say women are told who to vote for, but one thing we know for sure now, because we've interacted with them from community to community, is that if they are seen to be in a space that pulls away a group of women from the so-called traditional parties, they are threatened a lot. I mentioned the fact that women work a lot under violent spaces, and WF is no exception. We have actually seen many times, even when we went for meetings, that if we did not have some of the men who are going to ward off some of the people who would come to threaten us in our meetings, those meetings would probably be disrupted. So we are aware of the fact that when we hold our meetings, or even when people want to go and vote, they feel that, hey, if I vote otherwise, I'm going to have a problem. But further than that, what we discovered in the last 3 elections where we participated, 2009 and 2019, we found that where we have voted, our votes are not counted. I did raise it with the Mr. Mosari at the time. I think was the CEO or a member of the IC. And we had voted in a small town on purpose, actually, because we knew that if we vote in a small town, we will know how many votes we have actually we have raised in that place. So we went and voted in Winterton, and then we drove off to Joburg, only to discover that the 4 of us who voted there, none of our votes were counted. And then we discovered that when we were together with some of the members in other areas who had actually asked people to go and vote and done all of that, the votes were not counted. And it becomes quite serious because in another interview I was asked, don't you have voting agents? And I said, you know, politics requires a lot of money, and WF has none of that. And somebody said, but why did you get into politics without money? And I said, I didn't think that democratically you would expect us to have millions for us to convince people to actually have, to actually vote for us. But then, as we all know, hindsight is a great teacher. We know now. I think in one of the interviews, Umzile Mlapotuga mentioned it. In the work that she does, she did internationally, where she found that the coffers of the UN Women Agency were $500 million for the rest of the world's work that she was doing. And she realized that if she was going to change anything at all, particularly in this patriarchal sphere, you need a lot of education, you need a lot of resources. And when she found that $500 million, she worked very hard to change the situation where
Ms. Ngobese, I'm afraid we're going to have to call time on our conversation this afternoon, but certainly appreciate you making time on this Women's Day.